you did a post earlier this year where you talked about video as a part of your outbound motion, but also to communicate internally. I'm
Yeah.
actually somebody who uses it all the time. Like just before this recording, we were in like a stand up. I was like, oh, I'll just I'll do a little video for it and send it. So it's like these like little micro trainings, right? But I'll do the same thing in the sales process where uh, instead of just sending an email and maybe a PDF or a website link, I'll also include a video of me going over that information so that my prospect can determine which format they like to consume that information, but sharing internally as well. Now it's my voice on top of it instead of theirs. So I found that to be extremely valuable. How do you use video, one, in outbound? Because that's been a big part of it. Like, do you have any best practices or tips that you're using to train your team up on? I'm
Yeah.
really curious to see how you might be using it on the outbound side these days.
Yeah. So from the outbound perspective of utilizing video, we have obviously best practices around that. And the one thing I encourage people to do is just be yourself when you're doing a video, because a lot of the times, and even when I started, I was just so caught up in the moment and in my head that it was difficult to perform and it was difficult to talk. And even though I knew the information and I had the knowledge, I was just like, oh, how do I communicate that? How do I get my point across on video? Because it's weird. It's weird to talk to yourself and talking to a video. But one thing that helped me was actually doing a video diary. This is not have nothing to do with outbounding, but it has something to do with getting ready to do outbounding with video. Because if you're not comfortable in front of the camera, if you haven't got that exposure to speak in front of a camera, then you're not going to be comfortable and it's going to show, and you're going to seem as if you don't know what you're talking about, or that you're not confident in yourself or in your product. And you don't want that. You don't want that perception. And so you need to practice, because you cannot fake enthusiasm on camera. You cannot fake confidence on camera. You are who you are. You need to practice that. So I think a lot of people should do more of role playing. They should do more of video recordings for themselves to begin with, and then also share that across to other people. So I always say, like, depending on where you are, I can't diagnose an entire group of sales rep and say everyone follow this path, but there are general best practices, and that's great. But you have to understand where people are coming from and what the actual challenge is with video. It's not to create it, it's usually something else. It's not that they don't have enough product knowledge, it's something else. So that's where I would start on that conversation.
So just getting comfortable is so important, and that's step one. And once you feel comfortable, then you can naturally use who you are as a seller to come through in a new format.
Exactly.
I really like that. On the internal communication side, what are some of the things that you're doing to use video?
Yeah, quite a few things. I love video. So anytime I get an opportunity, I'm like, oh, let me do this really quickly. So I do it like following up from meetings, after I speak with reps or I speak with leaders. I follow up with the video, not always, but if it's something that makes sense or someone might have missed that call and we didn't record it for whatever reason, it's super helpful to follow up in an email with the video, or just send the video over Slack. You just have so many abilities and opportunities to share that across, not only to the intended recipients like that you were talking with, but also other people on the team that might find that valuable. And so I use it very frequently. Same thing if I have, conversations with vendors. We can also communicate over video and share, screen sharing. I've done that quite a lot, where I'm struggling somewhere and it's difficult to communicate what that challenge is. So the best thing to do is just like visually show them this is the challenge. And you know what? Like, it's interesting because I'm so used to this easy solution, because it really is to just do this, that I kind of expected that to be a general thing, that everyone does this, like anybody should do this, but they don't. And so when I sometimes deal with other people or other, let's say a vendor, and they don't have customer support in a way of sharing, they can't always jump on a Zoom with you and help you, that's when I take the opportunity to record a video and send that to the customer support and say, this is the challenge that I'm having.
Yeah, it's crazy you mentioned that. It's so innate to you, but you realize that others might be doing that. I can't tell you how many times I'm getting messages that come in where it's either just text trying to explain it with like little arrows, like click this first, click that, and then someone might take that to the next level where they've taken a screenshot and then they have those old where they're actually putting the arrows in, like, hey, here. Or you could just click the Chrome extension and record your screen, and that's really impactful. Um, but a lot of people aren't taking advantage of that use case. I love that you've shared that with us. It's so powerful, both internally and externally, right? In sales, all the way through to support. So
It is.
that's
Even if we think about our day-to-day lives, like I use video. I send videos to my family, like congratulating them on something or on their birthday or whatever. I send a lot of voice messages as well, but video can also be used in other ways in our own lives. Like, for example, my sister came to look after my dog one weekend when I was away, and I knew she was going to have questions like, how does this work? How does that work? She's never stayed, by herself in my apartment because I always do whatever we need to do. So she doesn't know these things. So I made a video in advance to show her this is how it works, and I just step by step showed her. And then sure enough, when that weekend came around, she asked me a question: how does the washing machine work? I don't get it. I was like, here you go, here's a video. She's like, oh, you should, when did you do this video? I was like, I did that like a week ago because I knew you were going to have that question. So this goes back to, like, if you have that mindset in your life and if you have that mindset early on to help people ahead of time, then you can anticipate, just like when you're selling, you can anticipate an objection coming, and you should be able to handle that objection, and you should be able to be ahead of that objection.
yeah. I love that. Your sales or revenue enablement by day, apartment enablement by
Yeah.
by side hustle. There's like a whole new industry
Also,
there. Are you just shooting those with your smartphone and
yeah.
capturing those? That's super smart. I can't tell you how many times that would have saved lots of
I,
pennies.
I literally wanted to do like I want to do a handbook, for so many different things in life. Like, this is how it works, this is how you do it. But also because this is just the person that I am. Like, I like to do things like that. I like to have information organized in a structured way. So that's just how I function. And I try to improve like how I communicate with people, not only my colleagues, but also my friends and my family. Like, how can I communicate better? How can I get my points across in a more clear way?